I kept having of it sending it to the wrong stream. But anyways, okay, so now okay, I'm trying to stream on Rumble is what I'm going to. I've set up a streaming configuration, and okay, so waiting for stream. Okay, I gotta be honest. Rumble sucks. I'm sorry. What's it called? The interface here was designed by, I guess, a computer programmer who doesn't understand how people function and how people work. Like, it doesn't. What if I do? Hold on. I'm gonna have to. Oh, just start today. What is, one of my pet peeves? I love design, and I love good design, and I just can't stand horrible design, and that's what I'm dealing with right now on the Rumble end. And I think that's been a big problem for Rumble, is there's enough people who want to use it, and it's nothing but. It's trying to figure out a way to articulate like a good example or analogy of how horrible it is. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to click on the title here. I know this is very exciting. Good morning to all of you, by the way. I hope you're having an amazing morning, and I hope you're having an amazing day. I'm going to, let me just end that. I'm going to set up a live stream right now. I'm just going to go live. None of this, nonsense. Like, I don't understand when you have, it's not even systemization of the process. When there's a process that's simplified, that everybody uses, that's efficient, why you don't just copy it? Just copy it and improve upon it. It's horrible. Like, it's just, anyways, let me get this set up, and we're going to make it public. Set a placeholder video. Why? Why set a placeholder video? I just want to put a thumbnail. My thumbnail doesn't need to be a video, and I don't want it to be a video. I just want it to, anyways. Good morning. This is what I do when I'm working on my own. I tend to we all talk to ourselves a little bit, and this is Freedom Coffee Livestream, episode number 13 on TikTok, whatever. We'll give the Communist Party some intel that they really don't care about. And, okay, so Rumble, we're clicking next. Good morning, Amanda. It's good to see you. Beth says, so BCCI, BigCon Canada Inc., is unable to learn from their mistakes. Didn't you know, BJ, that studying history is stupid? Yeah, it's, O'Doyle rules, right? Okay, go live right now. And, yeah, it's personal. And all these legal disclaimers. Anybody who ever, I'm going to give entrepreneurial advice for anybody. Any business you start, whether it's a live streaming business, like, what is this window now that pops up? Here's the encoder to embed and whatever. I'm like, just go. I'm supposed to be going live right now. Wait until it finishes processing. Okay. Maybe we'll be live. We're at 63%, whatever. Anyways, so entrepreneurial advice. Anytime you start a business, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a mechanic's shop or a plumbing business or a bakery or a streaming service. Take what everybody else does, who's the best people in the space, copy it and build from there. Start from there. Don't, like this, anyways. I think this might be the last time I stream on Rumble, to be entirely honest. If this thing ends up working, which please wait till you're finished. Yeah, so I got to finish processing a thumbnail. You know what? Forget this. Screw this. I'm done. No Rumble. Goodbye. Never streaming on Rumble. I'm done. Okay. I'm sorry. It just sucks. It just sucks in every possible way. I'll stick with locals and YouTube and everything else. So wow, look at all the good mornings. Hey, Marcelo's message is up. And Jesse, Sonia, good morning. D-Tao in PEI. Quick fix. Waterproof. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of people coming in here. And you know what? I'm going to address that in the first thing. So I do want to wish you all an amazing day and an amazing morning. And I hope today is my goal is to make sure this is the best Friday morning of your life. And I can feel like we're getting there. I think we're going to. So anyways, it's great. We have somebody here. I like National Telegraph, but them supporting this scamming thief. Supporting this scamming thief is too much. Okay, so Cindy, who can't spell her name, why don't you just go fuck yourself? Bye-bye. Leave. You don't have to watch. Leave. Like, it's so funny. That would be, by the way, Big Con Canada Inc. That's one of the disciples that doesn't like... It's funny, I discussed that in a previous stream about, people don't want to know the truth. They want to adhere to their... I mean, we all do that, right? We have our preconceived ideas and our notions and scammy narratives that we buy into. And when people hear the opposite and they hear sometimes the truth, then they slip into cognitive dissonance like Cindy just did. A good example is... Scott Ems has talked about this and a few other people. This is very interesting. CNN, when CNN announced that they're going to try to do real news a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, when they had a new CEO, they said, no, we're going to start to be more objective and we're going to try to be more, we're going to be more balanced. What happened to the CNN viewership? They lost their minds. They went crazy. They started attacking CNN because people just don't want the truth. Some people, right? So we think we do, but we just want to have our preconceived worldviews reinforced, and that's just kind of how we are. So a couple of things. First, batch messaging. Yesterday was crazy. Yesterday I got so many messages all over the place. I couldn't keep up. It's almost like the Freedom Convoy was starting up. Nowhere near to that level, but I was getting... My phone was a bong, 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 bong during meetings and stuff like that. So... for everybody who's trying to reach out to me, either personally or through Twitter or whatever, I'll get to you. I apologize. I'm going to have to start batching. So that's what I do with my email. I just batch 2 or 3 times a week is when I go through my flagged folder and I respond to emails. And I'm going to have to start doing that with messaging a little bit. So if you do message me and it's a little bit long for me to get back to you, I apologize. Just a little bit of teething process right now, but we me and a few other people who've been supportive, are working on something special for all of you that will alleviate and address all of that to kind of open up our communication. So it's really great. Little side note before I start, have you noticed this? I've noticed this trend where millennials, do you notice they've stopped up-talking as much? Do you know what I'm talking about? Up-talking it's a really good way when you travel around the world, if you can tell if somebody's from the northeast of the United States or Canada, the Canada, the Montreal, Toronto sort of area, that whole corridor, there's so many cultural similarities, right? One of the things is the tendency to uptalk. And what is uptalking? Uptalking is the opposite of what I'm doing right now. Uptalking is something like, have you noticed that people do that? I don't know. What do you think? Like everything ends on an uptalk, and it's kind of a submissive means of communicating, a non-threatening means of communicating, because I guess everybody in the Northeast gets offended. But anyways, just a little side note I've noticed. Last night, Twitter Spaces. I don't know why I keep talking about Twitter Spaces, but this was quite funny. Last night there was a Twitter Space, and apparently Dumb and Dumber showed up trying to promulgate the big lie, or their big lie. Dumb and Dumber, that would be Keith Wilson and Hurt Locker Marazzo. And it's really funny because you can see the strategy that Wilson uses. He does the carpet bomb lie strategy. So what they're doing is we criticize him saying, why do they keep, in the case of Hurt Locker Marazzo, why does he keep changing his story? First, he said he was fired for not getting vaccinated. We found out that wasn't untrue. Okay, fine. But he told us initially he came to Ottawa because he lost his job. Not true. And because he was just inspired by the truckers, not because he worked for during the G7 and the G20 for the government ending protests. That's not why he was there. He was just inspired by seeing all the people on the side of the road. Okay. But then he said in an interview with Andrew Lawton that Randy Hillier called him and asked him to go to Ottawa. He's also indicated, who's the other person? He said, he's said many times, James Bowder called him and told him to go to Ottawa. Like, I don't know who the celebrity he thinks he is. I don't know how these people are chasing this nobody to say, go to Ottawa. What delusional world he lives in. But the point is, it's always changing, and you see that also with Wilson. And the strategy is what I call the carpet bomb lie strategy. And the idea is this. Instead of just focusing on what I talk about here, which is the truth and has always been consistent and the same thing over and over again because, there's no narrative, there's no spin, it's just the truth. And as Joe Rampart has explained in many, many spaces, he said he's double-checked, triple-checked me, verified, all that sort of stuff. And he said that's what convinced him. And Diverge Media, the same, a bunch of other people. And by the way, didn't like me initially because they bought into this fake narrative. But the idea of the carpet bomb lie strategy is you always change the lie a little bit or you do it differently. So people just get so confused because they've heard so many different stories from the same people, but so many different stories that people just get frustrated and they just tune out because they get tired of it, which is why I'm just focusing on this is what happened and that's it. And you can verify everything in the documents. But so it's very interesting. You saw a little bit of that there. Apparently, I didn't go. I wasn't in there. Actually, I went to sleep early last night. And I woke up to a bunch of messages. Hold on. Yeah. Having a little bit of allergies. I woke up to a ton of messages about some Twitter space last night, and some of the messages are telling me, they said this time. They said this time. I remember I said my phones are going off like crazy with messages. Everybody's sending me all these different things, and it was very funny. So one of the lies that I've heard them say a few times, Dumb and Dumber. Morning, Lisa. Good morning, Cheryl. Jesse. Everybody's here. Pardon me, I look a little rough. I know. It's been a busy morning already. One of the big lies that are being that they're trying to convince you of, there's through repetition, like Goebbels. They're just saying it over and over and over again. Hopefully you'll buy into it. Was BJ was never around. It's so funny. I don't know if K9 is here, but BJ was never around. Why? Because K9 sent me a whole long list of all the interviews I did from my hotel room the entire time that was donated by people who donated to the convoy to pay for our hotel rooms. There she is, K9. So she did a whole long list of all the links of all the interviews. Some of them I didn't even remember, and it's quite vast through the entire period. And remember, there were people that were coming in and out of my room all the time, Dagny and the media team and all that sort of stuff, including Wilson himself chasing me around like a puppy dog. But the best part is BJ was never around. I'm like, hey, fuckstick. There was a weekly press conference on Saturdays, all 3 weeks, in my hotel room, the media room, and you were there. You were on camera. Oh, he was never around. We have video of you in the press conferences with me. It's so funny. Oh, they're so ridiculous. And then, another thing I was sent today. So anyways, that was fun. But this other example of, the changing of the facts and the changing of the narrative, this carpet bomb lie strategy, where they change the lies all the time to distract and frustrate you all, so you won't pay attention to the actual truth, which is myself and many of you here. And thank you all for your support. I really do. I can't thank you enough for it. But one of the things he said that was sent to me was, Keith said he was contacted by, and this is the other strategy he uses. Keith said he was contacted by, quote, the truckers to come help. Who are the truckers? I'm a trucker. I didn't call him and ask him. Nobody in the Freedom Convoy called him and asked him. What do you mean, the truckers? Who? And you notice it's always vague language. And when you ask him a specific question, he responds with, you know, Trudeau has been destroying our country and restricting our freedoms. Like, shut the fuck up. Answer the question, you know? But it's always the same tactic. Thinks it's not going to keep up with him. Yeah, whatever. There might be some surprises for him in the near future. But anyway, so that apparently is what happened in this Twitter space last night. I don't know. I didn't go. I don't really care. You know, it's and there was this live stream by the horror guy, the book guy. Somebody keeps calling him Dave. That's why I keep getting confused. Anyways, whatever. The streamer cartoon guy who doesn't actually write and draw cartoons. They did some sort of stream, and then a bunch of people started coming and asking questions and challenging them on their assertions. And from what I understand, everybody was booted out. And then there were no comments or something. Comments were turned off and whatever. You know, it's really credible when the comments are turned off. That's what the fake news does, right? So, anyways, Sonia, yeah, whatever his name is, whatever. It's K9 says all the interviews were only to February 20th, and how they grew legs used in reports that used BJ Clips info. He got the truth out to the world. That was my job. That's what I was trying to do. That's why I leveraged every favor I could to get as much attention as I could on the convoy. How did they repay me back? By stabbing me in the back. Why? Because they were there to end the convoy. They weren't there to support it. They were there to get involved. And if it goes sideways, then they could fundraise around it and make sure that no truckers got any money and they kept it for themselves. But anyways, it's pretty obvious now at this point. People, you know, what's happening is there's a block of people who are just resisting and they're holding on to the narrative because they bought into it. But it is what it is. It's going to take a matter of time, and this is where social proof comes in, and there's more of you that are understanding that this is the truth, and the more of you who talk about it, the more of those people who bought into the lie will ultimately come out of it. And these are the persuasion tactics that I'm using. And what's interesting about persuasion and marketing tactics, I can tell you the tactics that I'm using, and they'll still work. Why? Because it's promulgated. It's based on objective fact and truth. It's not based on a lie. When it's based on a lie, then it doesn't work so efficiently. But it's just interesting that, you know, clearly they're watching my stream. So hey guys, hey Dumb and Dumber, and the rest of you fuckwits. They're wasting so much of their time watching my streams. Like, okay, you don't like it, just leave. Just go. I mean, I know they're trying to mine a lot of this so they can see who's listening to me and then contacting all of you individually, trying to, as they call them, politics, trying to capture you and make you part of their little group that will promulgate the lie. And they'll, you know, that's what they did with the cartoonist. But, you know, he's a manic depressive, and that's going to blow up in their face spectacularly. On locals, and good morning, everybody. That was written, so I wanted you to know that. No, I know that. Tom uses the same deflect tactics the Liberals use in the House of Commons. Well, because he's Trudeau. He's exactly the same as he doesn't know the answer to any questions. He's an empty vessel, and they just tell him what to say. And that's it. And when you ask him a question, he doesn't know the answer, so he slips into cognitive dissonance and lashes out at you, right? You saw that in Canada Day, where there's that video of him in front of all the Freedom people in the freedom movement, the various different groups. And what does the genie ass do? He starts talking about why we need to protect the police. And again, like, I have police in my family. I understand what was going on in policing, that there's a push or pull going on in law enforcement. But, like, wow, you dumbass. And, he arrogantly took his script and just, like, threw it away. I don't need this. Well, no, apparently you did. Apparently you did need it. It's so good. Amanda, yes, pissed me off when easy, simple questions are not answered. Anyway, okay, I don't understand the initial reference, so sorry. Me too, been very painful 2 weeks since the new... Oh, okay, I don't know. You're talking about TV shows. I don't get it. Anyways, so the last thing on all of this is... Like, again, I don't know how much time they're wasting on me. Okay. I mean, whatever. Enjoy yourself. But there's going to be much more to come on this, and this relates to this whole information messaging funnel. I'm working with some people who reached out to me who are really great, and we're working on something for all of you that you will all enjoy. And I will let you know when everything is set up and ready, and we'll talk more about it. Ward, morning, Ben. How goes this morning? It goes well. It's been like a typical morning. Very, very busy and a million things to get through. And my afternoon is, I got to get off here at around 11 o'clock, so I got a meeting set up. So, but I'm good. And Ward, more importantly, I hope you're good too. And what's your dog's name, by the way? Because that is a gorgeous avatar. Is that Finnish dog? That, what's it called? A Finnish something hunt or something? I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, so it looks like to me. Today in the news, this is, I think, relevant to all of us who have some concerns. Ben is spinning today. What do you mean, spinning? What do you mean? Like, I'm... remember, words can be interpreted in many different contexts, right? That's why all language is contextual. Today in the news, this is from, what's that guy's name? Mark Gerstein or something like that? I think I put the link in the YouTube description, or at least in the description of the encoder. Doug Ford, the guy who had the passports that affected your lives, that prevented you going to restaurants, and going to, your schools and whatever, that was provincial, right? Trudeau is bad, there's no question. But the provincial passports, that's Doug Ford, a conservative. Doug Ford has agreed with Justin Trudeau yet again. It's amazing. Why don't they just merge it into one party? It's already the uniparty, right? He agreed to sharing data with the federal government, sharing health data with the federal government. Now, I don't know, they're going to implement some new tracking apparatus that will allow them to do that. I don't know, digital ID maybe or something like that. But he agrees, and what's interesting about it is the Globe and Mail posted this article. Again, the link is in the description. And there was a part of, this happens often in fake news media when the government sponsors it. They'll post an article and then they'll say something wrong or maybe a little too much, and then they'll go in and they'll edit it. So this is what was edited out from this article, which explains how the Ontario government, which was the first government to jump out to support Justin Trudeau in his mandate to aggregate and track all your data, right? So now we're going to do data harvesting for the government, the federal government, and Doug Ford is going to help them through whatever apparatus they're creating. So what was omitted, that was in the initial article that was omitted by the Globe and Mail, I guess they got a call from somebody, said remove that, says Ottawa, and this is health data, apparently. Ottawa also wants provinces to contribute to a national data collection system that will make it easier to track and compare outcomes. Track and compare outcomes. Track and compare outcomes. That's kind of vague, isn't it? It's kind of vague. It's almost like when Keith Wilson says, I was asked to come by the truckers. Who's that? Well, track and compare outcome. What outcomes? What are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. So that's a good way to spot a lie and deception. And when they don't want to tell you exactly what they're doing, they want to get away from specificity. So they'll make a general comment, and they'll use, PR jargon. And that's not even good PR jargon. I don't know what that is. That's absolutely horrible. So it's very concerning. I would think. It's like they haven't learned their lesson yet. Like they had the Arrive can, and I said in a few interviews, I'm like, just removing the Arrive can doesn't mean go replace it with some other bullshit that does the same thing. It's like, no. We want to opt out. We want the option to opt out of stuff. Doesn't mean we will, but we just want the option, right? And as I said in a few interviews, at least with Facebook, we have the option to not use Facebook. We have the option to not use TikTok right here. And, here's an argument for my anti-capitalist, Antifa, communist friends, whatever. When they always talk about, capitalism, evil, and private sector, and blah, blah, blah. And we do that all over the place in Canada when private sector medicine and whatever. I'm not going to get into that debate, but don't you think this should go to the private sector? This shouldn't be the public sector, and let me explain why. Think of it this way, and this is kind of my reframe for it. Do you think the people who can data harvest and collect everything about your life should also be the people who control the military, the people who have the monopoly on violence in our society? Do you think really they should be the ones to data harvest everything about you? And here's that argument for the private sector. If we have to do, like, I know some people who's in this space who's a very strong supporter of the Freedom Convoy, by the way, and they're trying to figure out how they can grab all this health data, because there are so many problems with the healthcare systems across Canada, and information sharing is the biggest problem. That the information gets lost, and that's what ends up causing a lot of delays. It causes mistakes and errors that occur in the healthcare system. So I'm sympathetic to that they want to figure out a centralized, or it can even, I would argue, should be decentralized, but a database where they have everybody. So everything. So if you go to, you go to Kapuskasing and you have a problem, everybody knows your medical history, so the doctor can see, so he's allergic to penicillin, he's allergic to, they want to make it more efficient. So I get that. I understand that. The problem is with what was omitted from the article, that Ottawa also wants provinces to contribute to a national data collection system that will make it easier to track and compare outcomes, which is meaningless, and that's the problem. So I think probably the better solution to this would be, instead of giving all the data collection and ability to data harvest everything about your life, instead of giving it to the people who have the army and the military and law enforcement and guns, that's wrong, that's bad. We can segregate the two and put the data collection not into one company, not into one crown company, but into a multitude of different startups that work with each other and figure out how to utilize data for different purposes. That's the hedge against authoritarianism. And to the Antifa guys on the far left, the private sector is the hedge against government destroying your lives. That's why the private sector is important. So, and just a suggestion on how to kind of look at these things and think about it moving forward. Anyways, all of these things. Hold on. Sonia says, What happened to my mouse? Oh, there we are. Arrive Can was a test. Yeah, it probably was. All these things are. Peterson was on Rogan many years ago explaining this strategy. The push or pull strategy is, they push 2 inches, you push back, they draw back an inch, and then you push back, they push back another 2 inches, and you draw back. It's because we're on the defensive positions. We don't get offensive. And the one time we got offensive with the Freedom Convoy, they lost their minds, right? But that's why those strategies are important. That's why you have to be able to get offensive. Not violent and whatever, but offensive in terms of a strategy. To say, like Tom Petty said, I won't back down. That's important. It's important that they know. Jesse says, I've noticed Keith Wilson. I know Keith joins live streams, and when asked to jump in, with his side, he refuses. Then runs off, trying to sway people of his hidden facts. Do not like that man. Okay, so yes, Jesse, you noticed that in that stream that I have a recording of it. It's with when I tore them an asshole, and then my lawyer Jim Karahalios finally comes in, and you noticed. As soon as Jim Karahalios comes in, Keith threatens him and says, careful, Jim, when he starts speaking. And Jim was in just lawyer mode and just, focusing on these are the facts. This is why my client, Benjamin, has a right to be upset and should be. And what happened to Keith Wilson? He ran away, right? Ran away. So yes, this is a common strategy. So I've noticed that Keith Wilson joins live streams. And when asked to jump in with his side, he refuses. Then runs off, trying to sway people of his hidden feeds. Do not like that. Yeah, it's a common strategy. Look, you have to understand about Big Con Canada Inc. and Wilson and Hurt Locker Tom. These are low-level bottom feeders. These are people who are expendable, right? Once he gets into enough trouble and causes enough trouble for himself, I guess, I don't know, they'll just drop him like a lead balloon. Like, that's it. He'll just be ostracized, and nobody in Big Con Canada will talk to him from that point forward. And I think that's kind of the desperation, because they need to sell this lie, this narrative to you and get you all to buy in. But you're smart enough to understand when you're being lied to. Most people are, right? And I think that's what's happening. But who knows? That's just kind of how I see things. That's just my opinion. And it is what it is. Well, peeps, just a quick hi and bye this morning. You all have yourselves a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Ward, and thank you for the positive and loving message for everybody. That's great, man. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, there was a major database that was the thing they were trying to rebuild. Now it'll be worse, but it was a major data source back then. Yeah, could be. I mean, that's when databases were kind of the in thing, just before, just around the Y2K era. So yeah, that does sound familiar as well. The whole scandemic was a test for conditioning, a conditioning ploy. Yeah, probably. I mean, that's the way they operate, and that's why we need to speak out and push back and not look at people in government as being evil, but they just need a little push to say, hey guys, this is the line in the sand. It's a little too much, which is exactly what it was. Hitchhiker, Wilson comes off like a sleazy used car salesman. Don't insult sleazy used car salesmen like that. Come on, Hitchhiker. We all gotta buy cars too. Come on. What we didn't need is some fuckwit coming to Ottawa. Yeah, the best is the comment, I'm going to Ottawa to prevent bloodshed. What a lunatic. Like, crazy. All right. Okay, over to locals. I was there. We tuned in. Tom was with that cop comment. I don't know the comp. Oh, you guys are having a conversation. So I'm lost as to what you're referring to specifically. Yeah, Tom was not. It's funny. Tom wasn't beaten down by the thugs. Like, I had an excuse. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't get out of the. And it also just snowed, right? trying to even just hop into the Uber when I was told repeatedly, leave, 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 and I didn't want to. And I finally acquiesced and said, okay, fine, I'll go to my friend's house who lives in Ottawa and get out of the hotel, whatever. And, you know, Tom was able-bodied. I didn't see Tom, Hurt Locker Tom, Hurt Locker Marazzo. What do you like better, Hurt Locker Tom or Hurt Locker Marazzo? Let me know in the comments in the chat. I didn't see Hurt Locker Tom out with those people who are standing in front of the police and preaching, we're here for peace and love, we love you, this is about our freedoms. I didn't see him there, right? Cowering in the corner. Or maybe he was with Dean French, Doug Ford's right-hand man. And you know, it's funny, that's the other thing, when they say, oh, BJ was never around. I'm like, yeah, because you were with Dean French, Doug Ford's right-hand man, and the Ottawa police and the city of Ottawa. That's why you never saw me around, because I was actually with the truckers and with the people who are organizing the convoy. That's where I was. so dumb. Steak Bear, I like Hurt Locker Tom. Future Now, HL Tom. Hurt Locker Tom it is so far. K9, Hurt Locker Tom it is. Okay, Hurt Locker Tom. We need to think of a good nickname for Wilson. The only thing that I thought of is a little too extreme. You know, he does kind of look like a fetus with glasses. There's a lot, and you'll notice that's kind of the look of the Conservative Party. You got to be overweight. You have to have that sort of look and have glasses. Whether it's Chad Rogers, who's kind of a kingmaker in the Conservative Party, looks exactly like that too. Or the cartoon guy looks like that. Like, they all look the same. It's really creepy. They look like, if you ever see the movie WALL-E? Remember where they're all in the spaceship and they're just drinking they're drinking whatever that drink was, which was their food supplement, and they're just lying on their cots. There's like fat pigs. That's what I think of when I think of all the behind the scenes people. Not all of them. The people behind the scenes people within Big Con Canada Inc. That's what they are. That's what they look like. I should get that for a meme or something like that. Wilson equals Lionel Hutz. Sleazy Keith Wilson, volleyball head. Oh, Weasel Wilson. I don't know. You guys come up with that. I'm just telling you kind of what happened. That's awesome. Anyways, so let's focus on a little bit of positivity around all of this, because you know it's all fun, and I saw a lot of the feeds. Dichter News. Oh yeah, you're talking about, yeah, because I was so many interviews. I was doing so many interviews. I lost track of them, and it was just like it was work. It was not. If you notice, you'll notice a difference. And this is an important, not just persuasion strategy, but it's also important for me personally. Okay, whatever. Yeah, fine. You'll notice when I was doing the PR communications for the convoy, you notice I wasn't talking about myself. Maybe that's why people, you know, who are hired by Big Con Canada Inc. could successfully promulgate this nonsense. So, well, BJ, he's not a real trucker, he's a fake trucker. Because I didn't talk about myself. I talked about the truckers and you and what the government has been doing to your lives. That's what I was there to talk about. For me, it was work, work, work. Bang, 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 another interview, schedule this, whatever. Deal with whatever catastrophe we had. Somebody else is scheduling something that's not, you know, or somebody released something that's not, was not approved by the entire messaging team and whatever. And, you know, Dagny was going back and forth and all that stuff. And it was constant, right? But I didn't sit there and talk about, hi, I'm BJ. I live in Toronto. I've worked for Harley Davidson. I've worked for these companies. This is my background. I think I mentioned once or twice as a candidate when it was relevant. But I didn't sit there and talk about myself. I was talking about you and what the government was doing to you and all of us. You notice the difference with some of the other people who are a little bit drunk with the camera, right? There's the people they want to talk about is themselves. And there's a reason for that. So well, hold on, sorry. Future now. The mean tweets are really getting to hurt Locker Tom. Hope they didn't ruin his 5-figure trip to Europe. What mean tweets? It's not me. I think I have him blocked, or he has me blocked, or whatever. Like I have most of them muted. I have some people blocked, but most of them are muted because I don't really care. But I think they've blocked me or whatever. So if there's mean tweets, they ain't coming for me. So maybe they're just factual tweets, and the factual tweets are mean because it exposes when they're lying. I don't know. Could be that. Who knows? But yeah, wonder how he paid for that. Well, you know, Big Con Canada Inc. has some big donors, and there's only a maximum amount of money they can give to the Conservative Party of, you know, $1,600 a year. But they can give to these fake proxy organizations and strategies to try to control the messaging or control the narrative. And that's my guess. Hurt Locker Tom blocked me for nothing. Of course. He probably blocked you because he saw that you watch me, so he blocked. You know what? I have a suggestion from Hurt Locker Tom and Wilson. Go on to Twitter and just block the internet. Just block the entire internet. Then you don't have to deal with questions. If the entire universe is blocked, then nobody's going to ask you questions, and you'll be fine. You know, it's great. Jesse, I'm blocked by no one and haven't blocked anyone. All right, good. That's Jesse, you are wonderful, and thank you for that, and thank you for always being here. You're great. I think when you know as the amount of engagement increases, and like what I try to focus on is blocking bots, because I know they're bots, right? And they're going to be deleted accounts within 30 days anyways. So I don't really care. Just, yeah, okay, whatever. There's another bot that was launched. Block. And that's it. That's what I usually reserve it for. But anyways, Carla, good morning. Well, buenos dias for you, Carla. Thank you for being here as well. So just to shift over to the kind of the positivity frame around all of this. So yeah, it's very frustrating that Doug Ford has once again sold out you and everybody who voted for him and people who didn't vote for him by now going to Justin Trudeau and saying, hey, yeah, here, I'm going to give you all the data on Ontarians, and I'm going to be the first one to do it, right? That's Doug Ford, your conservative for you. So it's very frustrating. But the thing is, something I've noticed throughout this entire episode with COVID and all the mandates and the eventual Freedom Convoy and subsequent to that, because there's been many other things in the world occurring and going on, that I've heard a lot of people try to suggest that the world is ending. The world is collapsing. Society is collapsing. Everything's collapsing. The economy's collapsing and whatever. And there's no question there's going to be an economic downturn. But we've the last economic downturn was 10 years ago. And a lot of that is because of our structure, which is not quite as, it's robust in some ways, but these booms and busts, the volatility in our economy is intentional, I think. Or it just might be a byproduct of, some trade-offs that people are always trying to negotiate in the market. But the world is not collapsing. It's not. I promise you it's not. Every generation that has ever lived, especially in the modern world, thinks that in their time, the world is collapsing. Whether you lived during the 60s and 70s, during the Cold War, whether you lived during the 80s was maybe a little bit more positive, I think because everybody was high on drugs, to be honest, but everyone always thinks in their time that the world is collapsing. It's not. This is just the human experience. There's always this push or pull. There are always things that are highly negative, that disrupt our lives, that people interpret as this is the be-all and end-all. I was trying to explain to people during COVID as well, as frustrating as it is, and as incompetent as our governments are, because it's not COVID that destroyed your lives and the economy. It's the government. It's the government's response to COVID that did that, right? But I tried to tell to many people, whether you were on the, okay, pump me full of 20 shots, or you were anti-shots, it doesn't matter. I tried to tell everybody, it's going to end. Give it time. It's government screwing things up. And as I said many times, changes in government is like trying to do a U-turn in a battleship, because it's highly inefficient. I don't know. Maybe when ChatGPT 4 is released, we should start deferring most of our government decisions to AI. I'm at the point where just people are just too corrupt and incompetent. That might be an option. The only problem is the presuppositions of AI comes from human beings as well, so who knows? I don't know what the solution is. But I do know that the world is not collapsing, and that there's always political strife in countries around the world. The difference is because we have telecommunications that's instant around the world and the internet, it's easy to sell a narrative for legacy media, political actors, whatever, to convince you that, oh, look at this thing here, the world is collapsing now. And they do that to you constantly. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. I like Stephen Hicks's explanation. He talked about this on when he did his interview with Glenn Beck, which was the first time I communicated with Glenn Beck's team, actually, which was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And he said, I have confidence in the robustness of our systems. Doesn't mean that people aren't constantly trying to manipulate it. We know they are. This is not what he said. I'm trying to infer what he was suggesting. He articulated it much better. It's been a while. But the robustness of our system that we've built, it's endured a lot of stress over generations, whether it's foreign actors trying to meddle in our system. I mentioned the Cold War previously. There's a lot of things that's gone on in our society, but the institutions, which right now they're a little out of whack because they're meddling too much in our lives. We'll get beyond that too. As more and more normies start to feel government on their throat as well, they're going to push back too, and they'll align with us as well, and we'll all be able to have enough momentum to push the political class and say, that's enough. And the Freedom Convoy was a big step in that. So that's part of the reason I'm so optimistic. But I promise you, the world is not collapsing. Even, you live in North Korea, you might think the world is collapsing, but you wouldn't even know better. I didn't know. I was listening to Yosemite Park with Gad Saddam about halfway through, that they don't have a map of the world. You don't live there, and that society is doomed to collapse. The only reason it's still there is because of China. If it weren't for China, it would have collapsed decades ago. So it's only a matter of time until it completely collapses, North Korea itself. But the robustness of our system, which has really stood the test of times, and you can go through, people like to say the origins date back to Roman times. Maybe some of our political structure, but from the human experience, it dates back all the way to the Akkadian, Sumerian, and ancient Mesopotamia, right? If you do a deep dive into it, you see all the similarities today. The one example I love is I just lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me in a second. The point is, our system right now is built upon thousands of years, millennia of evolution, adaptation, to which we have a system that's pretty robust now. There's going to be fluctuations, there's no question. What's happening in the universities right now has been a concern for the past decade, but more and more regular people are starting to wake up to the fact and realize they've just become brainwashing institutions, and people will demand change, and it'll change, right? That's the system that we have. So that's why I'm so positive on things. These are all good things, and I understand why we tend to slip into this, the world is ending, because what are we naturally? We're naturally problem solvers. We're very adaptable. We like to find problems and we like to solve problems. And when there aren't problems, then some people will invent artificial problems, and then other people will try to solve these artificial problems. That's what all this gender debate not bullshit is, right? There's no problem there, but there's certain people, the activist class, who've been trained to focus on this because some people, there's some sort of collective hysteria where people have been convinced that there's some sort of problem with this innate attribute of human beings, which dates back, I don't know, to how many billions of years or hundreds of millions of years of evolution of our species. So, and I know it's frustrating when this natural instinct to problem solve gets triggered and misappropriated to something that's not there. And that's what we're dealing with right now. But things are going to get better. There's always going to be bumps in the road because there will always be bumps in the road. No matter how good society is, there's always going to be challenges, no matter what. I look over to locals, what I see, Hurt Locker Tom, but Hurt Locker Tom. That is very funny. B-U-T-T. B-U-T-T-H-U-R-T Locker Tom. That's very cute. That's awesome. So I think we have a lot to celebrate and to be excited for. And the reason I bring up this Doug Ford aligning himself with Justin Trudeau yet again, last time it was to end the convoy, now it's to data harvest your information, not for you to get upset and worried, but for you to get active and tell other people that this is going on and say, well, this is why we're not voting for Doug Ford. Because look what he's done, and reach out to the Constitut office, reach out to the Conservative Party and say, pull him now and replace him with somebody else. Just do that, right? Will they ever do it? I don't know, because there's a extreme lack of courage in politics, right? But I've always lived in interesting times. Same plot, updated with new devices. That is an excellent quote, Robert. That is very true. And he mentions AI. Listen, I'm very optimistic on AI because everything is trade-offs. Everything brings a potential positive outcome and a potential negative outcome. And I think the positive outcomes of AI will outweigh the negatives. But that's just myself. Which book by Stephen Hicks would you most recommend? I would recommend Explaining Postmodernism. I mean, all his books are great. But if you want to understand Trudeau, and if you want to understand really the big geopolitical problem in the world right now, you just have to understand the underlying philosophy of these people, and they become so easy to predict, and they're not so scary, and that's what postmodernism is. There's a couple of videos from Stephen online that other people have made around Stephen when we first launched this podcast. There's a great 5-minute video called, I think it's Postmodernism Descent. I think that's what it's called. It's a great video. It's summarizing why people on the left are so miserable, and people like they're very hateful. Yeah, they're hateful, but they're more miserable and depressed, and I think most of it is artificial. But postmodernism will explain all of that. Definitely worth a read. And Stephen Hicks is actually working on new episodes of Open College for us to release soon. So hopefully I will be getting those to edit in the near future, and I will share those with you. And if you haven't listened to it, Open College with Stephen Hicks, there's a YouTube channel, and I mean, it's an audio podcast, but I upload it to YouTube as well. The first episode, everybody in the world needs to listen to. It's called Free Speech, Why the Philosophy Matters, being the philosophy of free speech. Who gave the... Oops, I just lost that. Who gives the premier the right to sell our personal information? Yeah, I didn't sign a terms of service. Did you? Would we not have to agree in order to expose the personal health info? You would think so. I thought we had this thing where health data was private, and anyways, it was. As Rebel did a report on the woman that has 5-hour recording of the cops in Coots raiding her home. Okay, well that's important. That's interesting. NDP is doing a town hall meetings re private healthcare, trying to feel out the people freedom fighters attended. It's a joke. Won't hire back this fired or not taking the hokey pokey. Okay, where is that happening? Is that happening in Ontario? Because I would go to one. I'd go to an NDP thing and explain this case, why you don't want the people who have monopoly on violence and control the military to also have the ability to harvest all your data, which is why we need a private sector. All right. All right, scrolling down. Norm, China and Sweden. Oh, Tao, hey, what's up, brother? Remember the eugenicist out of Toronto who said that the unvaccinated state of mind causes them to have more accidents? Yeah, that was great. Well, they somehow had a personal health data of millions of Ontarians. Good point, right? This is why. How they can utilize that the health data to propagandize you. And there's a very good book, an excellent book about it, called about data, called Lying by Statistics. This is why, and don't get upset with me. Don't get upset with me. When people say for or against cerveza sickness medicine, when they say for or against, and then they start citing data, I start saying, I don't want to hear it, because all the data is wrong. All of it, on all sides. But everybody is using data. They subscribe to the data when it reinforces their confirmation bias. That's what they're using it for. The data is all wrong. Nobody knows. It's going to take years until we understand what happened. I'm not saying there's not cause to be alarmed or have concern on either way. Yes, there is. But when people source data and they don't understand either the methodology of the data, or they can't answer the presuppositions as how the data was collected, then you don't know you don't know how to interpret the data. So I try to stay out of it. That's why I want to focus on freedom. So you have the right to say, hey, look at the data. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right, right? We need to have freedom first, and then all of you can engage in that conversation. That's for you to have. I just want to focus on your freedoms, on your positivity, on reducing anxiety, to tell the positive stories that are in this book, honkingforfreedom.com, and share it with as many people as possible. That's what I want to focus on. And people want to engage. Like, that's why, you see a lot of these spaces, debates on what happened from a healthcare perspective and whatever. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll just listen, and I don't really participate because that's not my wheelhouse. That's not my knowledge. And there's a lot of people like researcher Bob was researching this stuff for years. I can't engage in a conversation with him on it because I don't have his knowledge base, right? And I don't know what data to refute or not to refute, whatever. But I do want all of you to be able to talk as much as possible about it. And so I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure you always do. And that's where we're at. Okay, so I'm going to end off with Tao's brilliant comment here about how they used personal health data, the personal health data of millions in Ontario to promulgate the fake narrative that COVID caused you to be a worse driver, right? And that's the other thing, we can go down the rabbit hole of data and how it's misinterpreted and why the difference between a meta study, all the different types of studies, whatever. And I don't want to get into that. That's for you guys to do. I just want you to guys have freedom and positivity and talk about this openly as much as possible, and also have a safe space to come here and laugh at the government, laugh at the big lie, and get more sense of truth of what happened during the convoy and how Big Con Canada Inc. did everything they could to sabotage us. And, it is what it is. David, you have a great day, brother. Appreciate it. Tao says, I would recommend Ontario residents file a complaint with the federal commissioner over that, quote, study and how they got their info. Good idea, brother. The source that caused the accidents and blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. I got to run. My meeting started a minute ago. I love you all. It's all about your perspective on the situation, Lisa, 100%. And Lisa is the one who's come up with the name Butthurt Locker Tom. Somebody's got to do a movie poster of that. Come on. How funny would that be? Anyways, I got to run. Have an awesome day and stay positive. Be good to one another. I do have something that will allow that to happen. Me and Tao are talking about it, about getting something together for all of you. And that will help push back against a little bit of the negativity and further engagement with well-minded, like-minded, positive people. I got to run.